morning, everyone. Welcome back to our object-oriented programming course. In this video, we are going to explore some of the advanced type in the Java, and also how we can use the keyword this. As you can see in the previous video, when we can create a constructor, we are trying to avoid the name of the parameter of the constructor to be different from our class variable name. The goal is to make it, for example, id equal I, name equal n, to make it different. If you pass the same parameter, the same name, id equal id, name equal name, there will be something wrong. Okay? So we will explore about this keyword. So let's get started with the first topic, array and object. As you learn about basic programming, we have integer and you can also create array of integer. And in this case, you create an object, let's say students, counter, or the employee. You can create many items, which is called array of object, that can store many objects in one variable only. So it's very similar to the array of object or array of data. Basically, when it creates, it is not the object itself. It just stores the reference of the object. Will be create object later. Okay? For example, you create an object, a list of objects, class name, bracket here, object, or you can put the bracket after the object name. Right? So this is how you create an object, but you need to specify the amount later using the new keyword. Okay? This is an example you created, class name student, and the list here. Okay? We didn't specify the amount yet. Okay? So when you create an object, so in this case we have two examples. The first one you create with the class name, the bracket, object name, and new class name, and you provide the size of your object. Okay? Another option is you create first with the object and bracket without specifying the size, and then you use it to create a new later. Or b equal new class name and size. As you can see, we have two different types, right? Okay. For example, in case of creating student object, you can write only one line and pass the size in here. Okay. And later on, you need to initialize each item of the array with the new command as well. Okay. For example, you create the class employee on the left side. Suppose you can know what is the class name, how many variables it has, and how many functions or constructor it has, right? 3 variables and 2 function, insert and display data. And we have one hidden, or we call one default constructor. So in this class intent employee on the right, you create 2 objects, E1 and E2, which use this class employee. And then you're trying to call the insert functions. E1 or insert, you pass some data, 1 data 400, which means ID, the name, and the salary of this object, and then insert for the E2 and display data. Okay, this is single object one by one. You can actually create an array of objects. Let's say you create 10 employee. Method 1, okay, you create list 1 here with the bracket without specifying the size, and then you say list 1 new employee 10. So you create 10 objects. In way 2 that you create an object, you can write one line, okay, employee list new employee something. So these 2 methods, you can choose either one, is fine. And when you take it into the usage, yes, this is just the reference of the object. This is not object itself. So when you create a real object, you need to create a new keyword again here. You need to activate the constructor, right? So in this case, just an overview of how you create an array of object, which is storing the reference. Okay. So in this example, you create, let's say, a name list containing some name of the students, and then you create a new object employee, list 1, taken from list 1. List 1 of I, it means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Because the list, the loop here start from 0, 1, 2, 3 until the length, the last element of the list, okay, minus 1. Because array start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that, we use for loop. So you initialize the first element of the array with new here, create an object, and you can insert this data So what it means here, you're trying to initialize every object taking the name from this data. Okay, the salary, you do something with multiplication here. Just an example. So if you display data from this list, okay, you can get all of information, right? So we have another way, what we call array list class, which is an abelian class. You can use import java.util.arraylist. So when creating this, it is a generic type, which you can specify any type of data that you want to store as an array list. Okay. This is dynamic. Compared to array of objects, it means it needs the size of array. But for this one, it is dynamic. You can add many data as you like. In case of string, okay, you can add string. Array list of student, array list of employee, whatever. Okay, there is no limited amount. That is the main difference. Where element can be added or removed from array list whenever you want it. Okay. So here are the function that you can use with array list. We have function get, set, remove, clear, and side. Function get is to get the item of the list by specifying the position. Okay. Function set is used to set data into the list. You can set with a specific position, set 0, comma here, position numbers, first position, right? Okay, the first slot of the array. Or you can also use the function add. This is very simple without specifying the position, right? Okay. But you can also use set as well if you want to specify certain location. Okay. Function remove is to clear data, one data at a particular position that you given to this parameter of the function. Function clear to remove everything in the list. Function side to get the current size of the list because it is dynamically created. Currently, how many size of them? For example, we add 4 times. So if we use cars.size, we will get 4, right? There are 4 elements in the list right now. So here's an example. You create a list. You're trying to add this variable cars.add. Add data one by one and then print it out. Okay. So the way that you display data from the list, you can use traditional way as you use the get function, pass the position. So you're trying to loop from position I for 0 until the last side. Access this data using get function. Another way is to use the easier way using Java for each item. You use for string, colon, cars variable name, right? So it means that if we extract each item from the array list, put into this variable, you can work with it, right? Display it out in this case. So let's move on a little bit. We will come back to coding testing later. Okay, with an array list, you can actually sort your data. Either it's numbers, strings, you can sort your data using what we call collection class. Collections, plural form, dot sort. This is a sort function. You can pass the variable list here, this car. Okay, so we sort data based on the from A to Z, for example, in this case of string. If it is number, from smaller to the largest number. Okay, we'll come back into the hash map later. Let's test this a little bit by going to your Eclipse. Create a new class here. Okay. So inside the test folder, let's say create something called class my array list example. Create a main function. Yes, so this is what we have. Okay. So let's create an array list. You can type array and then control space. You will get something, many things right here, right? So find out something called array list java.util. Okay. So this is the types. Let's say this is the string. You can put the strings. Say the name of the car, new array list again. One more time, you need to specify the type here, which is called string in this case. Okay. You can create also other type of array list. For example, array of number. You can put integer in this case. Integer is an object. Okay? Integer here must be integer in full form, not int only. So this is let's say numbers. New array list, store list of number. Okay. Okay. So next you can add data as much as you want, right? Let's say I'm trying to random a piece of number and add to our array list. So we have a random class. Random, let's say air, new random here. This is done using this class Java.utility random. So for example, you can let's say create a number int, and then I'm trying to run it for some times. Let's say okay, from 1 to k less than equal to 10. It's not 1. So I want to generate 10 random number and or.next. So there is called next in or next inbound or origin bound. So this is how you can generate random number. You can read the descriptions, the possible number it can return you from this function. I'm going to use this one. We will set the start and the ending number. Let's say I want the starting number is from 10, the last one 100, depending on your needs. Okay. So next I'm going to add into my numbers, the add, okay, and then I pass this random number. Okay. So whatever random number generated from inside the loop here, I will add into here. Okay. So lastly, let's see. I want to display the array list because it is an array list, right? So I'm going to loop it. For loop, it is an integer number. Let's say this is a colon, and then this is the number variable. Using the loop is simple, like for each loop. Display this out. What are the number inside this list of number? So we have I here, which representing all number inside. So let's run this. So as you can see, this is all generated number from this array. Okay, you generate random number, add to your array list. So whatever it can contain, you can adjust this. For example, 1,000 of number randomly generated from our computer. Okay. Just run it, you get all those numbers, right? Okay, you can do anything later, find the maximum number, sort data, okay, whatever apply to this number. Okay. So I'm gonna take only, let's say 25. We say okay, see here. So you can sort this data as well. As you can see in here, all data generated randomly. We don't know what is the order. So let's try to use the collection. Okay. Collection. So there are two options here. You see collection plural, Java.util, and another one collection singular, Java.util. So try to use with the plural. This is called class. This is called interface. Okay. So please use this one. Dot sort function. Sort function. And then you need to provide your list, which is number in this case. Let's see what happened after we sort it. Let's say you display this data. Okay. What is the output? Let's say I adjust a little bit here to allow it not to go into the new line so that you can see it easily. Okay. So in here, I'm gonna say a short message here. After we sort, okay, what is the data? Okay, let's try to run this. Okay, so where is the message after we sort data? It's gonna be at the end, right? Because we don't have the new line. Let's try insert a new line here. One more time. Yes, this is what we get. Okay. As you can see in this case, yes, these all our data generated from our computer. We add them to the list, and later on we're trying to sort this data using the collection.sort. As you can see, data are now being sorted in the order. You can also access this data from the reverse order by using the for loop function here again. Okay. Let's say I'm going to write a for loop which access from, let's say, pay equal to 0, pay less than size of this array, number.size, it has the size function, and we will access this data using the get method. The get method that are available in the list. Okay. If I say something like system out in line here, numbers that get of position P, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you will get those data as well. So let's say I'm gonna copy this message a little bit. Okay. Display, okay. Display, using get, okay. Run it one more time. As you can see, this is the data. Okay. You can actually give something called a space here. so that you can read these numbers separately. Okay, the same thing using for each array. Okay, so now from this function you can reverse it to display from the largest to smallest number, right? Okay, in reverse order. For example, I'm going to create one more here. This is the rule where you can modify, right? So let's say I'm gonna start my position from the very last side of the element, numbers, dot side here. I'm gonna start from the, so -1, right? Otherwise out of the boundary. Okay, the last element of the array is not the same size, right? It need to be -1. So I'm gonna take condition at least greater than 0, greater than equal 0, p equal to p minus 1. We loop it in the reverse order, right? As you can see in the for loop function in here. Okay. Yes, as you can see here, we can display all data reverse back to the front, right? So we get 17 here, 18. So the last here is something like this. So likewise in here, you can apply this into the what we call the list of string as well. This card, if you have text, name of student, or you can create an array object, whatever here. In example, like an array list. I say something, we have class employee, right? Inside this test, let's say employee here, because I have test employee, put in here. List emp equal new array list employee, right? Okay. You can create a list of objects, whether it's just a string, a number, or another object, okay, where you can use it later. Okay, and you can sort your data. Thank you for your attention, and we'll see you in the next video on how to use the hash map.